Now with any aquarium, particularly with the saltwater aquarium, you'll be absolutely amazed how much evaporation you get. And what happens is the water evaporates and then the water becomes more salty. And that becomes a big problem over time because eventually it gets too salty and can kill your livestock. So what will happen is this has got a sump. So what happens with the sump is the water from the bottom gets pumped up to the top. And if the system's running, your tank level should be high and your sump level will be low. Now what you need to be aware of is if the pump turns off, then the water will come down to the top and go down to the bottom, which means that level will go up and that level will go down. Now if over time that level goes down too much because the water is evaporating, then your pump will burn out. So it's really important that you're topping up your tank on a regular basis, otherwise your pump will burn out and that's not really all that fun. So what will happen first is the pump will shoot out bubbles for a while. Then when it gets sick of shooting out bubbles, which is telling you to fill it up, then it will suck dry and then potentially your pump will burn out, which is what seems to have happened in this situation. So what happens now is I've just put a temporary replacement pump on. So we're just going to now turn the pump on. The pump will start shooting the water up to the top. And what's going to happen soon is your sump's going to start running dry. And then when the sump starts, also your auto top up, which has now been filled up, is actually working because the water's coming out of it, because there's a little valve down the back there. When that valve goes down, your auto top up will start going down. Now here's your bubbles. So your bubbles are coming out and that's your bubbles telling you, hey, fill it up. And if you don't fill it up, kaboom, your pump will blow up.
I must have missed that when it's happened.
What we've done now is we've filled up the auto top up, because there's a valve in the back, which means when the water goes down due to evaporation, the water from this auto top up will then start going into the sump. So this auto top up needs to be checked on a regular basis. And as long as there's water in here, then you shouldn't really have to worry about the bottom. The bottom should take care of itself if that's right. And then the top should take care of itself if this is right. So your first point of call is make sure there's water in the top up. Assuming that's working, then make sure that there's water in the sump, which the top up should fill. And then if the bottom's full and the system's running, then this should stay full. Now we have topped it up, and now the salinity or the specific gravity is just over 0.025, which is a high safe level. Today I'm going to drop that down a bit because there's no invertebrates in this tank. I'd rather it run on the lower side of safe as opposed to on the higher side of safe. But over time, this tank has obviously evaporated. It's obviously made the salt level go up too much, and that's been a concern. In general, going up in salt quickly is a big problem. Going down in salt is usually not a big problem because easing osmotic pressure is generally almost in the fish's advantage, whereas increasing osmotic pressure is bad. Decreasing osmotic pressure is typically fine or even good. You really want to make sure you're running your aquarium at about 25 degrees. If your aquarium is running too low, that will mean that the heaters need playing with. If your tank is running too hot, you need to make sure the heater is not coming on, so therefore the lights are not on. And then we need to either blow a fan across the surface and or a fan across the sump. If not, and it's going to sit too high, particularly on the 40-degree days, we need to consider a chiller to go next to the tank. If we've just got fish and we do not have live coral, our emphasis for the chiller is relatively low. The fish can handle a lot more temperature fluctuation. The corals pretty much can't. When you're setting a protein skimmer, you want to make sure you've got steady water level, otherwise you'll keep resetting it. You need to make sure that the air coming in is unobstructed. Now, the next thing we want to do is make sure there's lots of bubbles in here, just like that. Then we need the bubbles to be halfway up across the cup. Now, at the bottom is a gate valve, which means if we close this gate valve at the bottom, if we close that valve, then we should see the skimmer start to go up. Yeah, so let's just figure out if I'm opening it, of course. So if we're closing it, this should come up. Now the way to set a skimmer is not really just sit here and set it. The way to set it is play with it, then go away for an hour or so and let it settle. Play with it, then go away for an hour or so until it settles. Because it actually does have to settle. So I'm just closing off this gate valve and we're watching this come up. And what I'm doing is destined to fail because you just got to give it time to settle.
So I'll have to do this again a couple of times tonight.
Yeah, so if you close this valve, then this goes down. Sorry, it goes up. If you open this valve, this goes down. But basically, as long as the froth is white, it needs to stay in the skimmer. If you let this run, the froth at the top will start to turn yellow, and that needs to come out of the skimmer.
And get caught in the top.
And get caught in here, right. So right now I'm just going to leave it like that for now. But what I'm wanting is the yellow froth to make its way up and out. Otherwise, it will need attention. Now, this is your mechanical filtration. So we just pull that out, and then in here is a filter sock. And then you want to clean that on a semi-regular basis. And I'd consider putting some polyfilter in there as well. Because polyfilter is my answer to everything.
Do you want me to get you
Yeah, I do. And I would be putting some of that in here.
Do you want me to give it a clean before you do that? Or you want to
No, we'll give it a clean now, and then we'll put some polyfilter in there because the polyfilter will remove anything we don't want in the water. Now, one of the single most important things about a reef aquarium is surface agitation. So your surface has to be broken like that. Now, we can, if we're blowing our sand out all the time, then we probably can look at turning the flow down a little bit. But whatever we do, it's really important that this top here remains very well broken. So the surface agitation is allowing good gas exchange because that's absolutely crucial.
So you basically got to see agitation.
Yeah, you got to see it like that. Yeah. One of the things we really want to have in a saltwater aquarium is lots of amphipods and copepods. Now these little organisms will end up in your biological filter material, and the biological filter material such as the marine pure that's in this aquarium will end up becoming what's called a refugium. So refugium basically means safe place, and that's where they'll all live. And then they'll find their way up and from the aquarium, and then they'll run around. You won't really see them. They'll be tiny little organisms, and they'll run around eating all the waste from the fish, and also the fish will also eat them. So they're actually a wonderful food source, and they're a wonderful scavenger all in one. So they help with your filtration, and they help with the feeding of your fish. So you just buy a little bottle like this and tip it in every now and then that will give you cultures of microorganisms. If you look at nighttime and you see lots of little dots flicking around, then you probably don't need any more because you've got enough. But over time, they will sort of tend to deplete, especially if there's something like a hungry wrasse in here that's going to want to eat them. But you want to use them straight away. Don't go putting them in the fridge and then forgetting about them. Otherwise, they will die off. And then one thing we do not want to do is when they've died off, don't put them in your tank. Otherwise, you're going to end up just putting a whole bunch of ammonia in the tank, which will be not good for anyone. So you want to buy the copepods, use them straight away. It's better if you don't store them. If you store them for a short period of time, no big problem. But really, just try to use them straight away, and then every now and then just refresh them by chucking a bit more in. When we do a water change, we want to do a gravel clean. In this case, the gravel really doesn't seem to be all that dirty, which I guess makes sense because there's not a huge amount of stock in here. But I don't like doing water changes without at least checking the gravel. Now, the key to cleaning your glass is regularly. Because if you clean your glass regularly, then it tends to be very easy to clean. If you don't clean it regularly, it gets really stubborn, and then it gets really hard to clean. So having something like a flipper is really great. But with your flipper, whatever you do, don't go whacking into the side because you can undermine your silicone with the razor on the flipper. Also make sure that you don't catch any of the coral sand underneath it because you don't want to go scratching your glass with it. So it's really wonderful as long as you use it properly. Okay, now we've left this skimmer going for a while now. That is why you cannot set a skimmer and then walk away. You need to set it, then walk away, come back after a while, set it, walk away and come back. Now right now, this is skimming absolutely beautifully. But over time, if the top starts getting yellow, we want that to come out. If we want that to happen, it's a matter of closing the valve. Or if we want the if there's too much, if there's white coming out, we need to open the valve, because opening the valve will make the level go down. The other thing I want is about twice a week, if possible, we're going to grab a little brush and brush out the inside of that cap. And then if we start seeing it build up in here and it's yellow, that's great. If it build up in here and it's white, then that means that it's running too wet, as in like there's too much coming over. So looking at it now, I might just open this valve a little bit, because it is starting to really come over now.
It's quite funny, it looks like it's running at the constant temperature with that change.
Yeah, so see, that's right. That's why you change it a little bit and then wait. So now you'll see it started going down, and that's because I've opened the valve at the bottom. Now I've got to wait a while and play with that, otherwise it'll go down too much. But at the long and short of it, I want yellow coming out, white staying in, and then just adjust as you need to until you get it right, and it will take time. Now when we are feeding an aquarium, I don't want to feed it every day. I tend to feed it 5 times a week. A lot of people will often do it every second day. And what I will do is not follow the instructions. All the instructions always tell you to use too much food. So how much food to feed? I would normally feed them what they eat in 30 seconds. So I want it all gone in 30 seconds as a starting guide. Other than that, I'm looking at their bellies. Now, if they've got a nice little belly, if they've got a belly, but not a fat belly, then that's good. If the bellies go up or in, then that's bad. So this guy looks pretty good. They look good.
And what about the rest? Because the rest, I'm not sure if it's got a belly or if it's a bit thin.
He's probably a tiny bit thin, but he does have a little belly. He actually is pretty good, but he could have a little bit more of a belly. And then next thing is what to feed. So Danichi is about the best food you can get. So I'm a very big fan of this. And then I also like Spectrum's probiotics as well. Other than that, giving it a bit of variety, like a bit of frozen food every now and then, even a little bit of flake or wafer every now and then is totally fine. But something like this is what I'd want to have as my main food. So we're just feeding them an amount, such as what they eat in 30 seconds. Then over time we're watching their belly, and then we're altering it according to what we're actually seeing. Having a bit of a feed now. They'll go and find it.